I have to say that if I look back a decade ago in how their perception was of consultants, it was more about a textbook or a tactical presentation from a consultant. And I think the mindset of folks in the operational procurement side was this is not being presented by a practitioner, it's being presented by someone who's just, kind of pulling out of a textbook. And I think that was the perception at the time, and I think that turned a lot of folks off from having more leverage with consultants. So I think it was that the perception by everyone, no, but I think there were a lot of folks who felt that way, that this person's never actually done this work. They're just, pulling information out of a textbook. And so it kind of gave consultants a bad rap. I look at it the way that the lay person would also think of procurement. Well, they're just here to save us money. No, that's not at all what we're all about, nor was it ever what we're all about. So I think it's changing the mindset and the perception. And that was the look back of how consultants were perceived by a lot of folks. And I would hear the buzz when I was at a conference where there was a consultant presenting on a subject matter related to procurement strategy. And you could hear the people in the audience going, well, they've never actually done that. How do they know? Right. So that was the look back in time. So there was an obstacle or a challenge for consultants to overcome that perception. At that level, at the C level, it's more about, this is an interesting dynamic, and it still happens today, where someone internal in the organization presents a great idea, or at least they think it's a great idea, and the C-suite will say, okay, duly noted. They'll ask a consultant the exact same question, and it becomes a fantastic idea because someone outside the organization presented it. It's amazing how that happens all the time. But I think that's the difference too between the individuals in the trenches, the operational folks that actually roll up their sleeves and do the work per se, versus the C level who hears the consultant say, that sounds like a great idea. Let's just do it. There's a problem with that. You can't just do it. You have to be able to execute it. It has to make sense both for now and for the future for an organization. So I look at it as the Willie Moscone approach to strategy. Willie Moscone was a very famous billiards player. There was a movie, The Color of Money, and it was based on partially on his life story. Willie Moscone was very successful, and he was asked, what does he attribute his success to? And he used to say, when I'm lining up my next shot, I'm not thinking about where the ball is going to go. I'm actually thinking of when that ball lands, how will that impact my next two shots? So he's actually thinking way ahead. And I think that's where consultants need to understand where the rubber meets the road. And so the C-suite saying, great idea, the operations folks saying, that's not going to work. There has to be something in the middle. And that's where I think I've seen a change in the consultants over the last 10 years. The big difference, the change that I've seen, is a very, very, very overlooked but important skill in any business. And in procurement especially, this is one of the most important things for us too. It's something called listening. And it's easy to talk. Talking takes no skill whatsoever. Anybody can talk. Listening is a very important skill. Being able to absorb what you hear and remember and resonate what's important. And so the listening aspect of where consultants have changed is, I understand what the C level wants. Now let me get in the trenches with the folks who actually do the operational work and find out where the opportunity is to blend those two concepts together. We know what they want. We know what's feasible and realistic, and how can we work together to make it happen. So the listening part has been a big change. I think for me, the biggest change that I've personally seen is that consultants are starting to get it. And it is the niche and the mid-sized consultants that get it more. You don't have to be a subject matter expert. This might sound contrary, but you don't have to be a subject matter expert on what you're consulting on. What you have to have is the ability to think like an agile project leader. You have to be able to influence, listen, and kind of understand the underlying information that you're seeing in data. And here's one example I'll share with you. So years ago, before the consultant mindset changed, we had a consultant come in, and it was one of the bigger consultant firms, and they brought in their team of consultants who probably had just graduated college within the last 6 months, but they were consultant experts, right? So the C-suite asked them to look at our data, find ways that we can save money. And so after 3 weeks in the war room, they said, aha, we've got it. You're spending $20 million on laptops and people are buying it on a credit card. Let's stop those purchases. Let's look at the underlying data. Guess what? That money is being spent on people whose official workplace is home. So they need a laptop to do their job. So no, you didn't find us ways to save money. You found ways that we wasted money by having you look at that data for 3 weeks. Now, flash forward where you have consultants that realize if you've got someone who's been in procurement for 40 years and they're in direct materials and they buy widgets and parts that go into a turbine engine, you're never going to have that expertise. So how can you help them? By listening and understanding what are their pain points, and from a business perspective, not from a consultant perspective, but a business perspective, what can you do to offer them to help them be more efficient, more agile, not replace their role, but being able to repurpose and re-engineer what they do so they can focus on being more strategic and get more done with less, right? So I think that's one of the things I've seen change quite a bit. And it is more of the niche and the mid-sized consultants that have kind of aligned that more. So it's not about this is what you should do. The question that the consultants need to ask, and they've gotten better at this, is what is your objective? What are you looking to accomplish? Not thank you here for the data. Here's what you should do. No, it's about what do you what's your end game? You know, what's the pain point? What's the causation of what's keeping you up at night? And how can we work together to help get you a better solution? So I think that's definitely a dynamic shift, and it's made it more compelling for business partners to want to engage consultants. I would look at it as procurement is a good way to segue into answering that question. To me, the procurement function has been a microcosm of the business world in general. And it's maybe one of the few functions that I can say it started as a very tactical and operationally focused type of function. And procurement evolved from being a function that was very tactical and operationally focused to being strategic. And it went from purchasing to procurement and global procurement. And then somewhere in the 90s, the word that appeared in the dictionary showed where we're changing to sourcing, right? And strategic sourcing and supply chain management. All these things came about over time. And I think the reason why the function has continued to shift and grow and change is that's how the business world is changing and evolving. Consultants saw that opportunity too, that we can't remain static. We need to change and evolve, become more agile and nimble, and grow the way businesses are growing and align with that. And it all comes down to, of course, consultant business to make revenue, right? So we're going to have more impact and more ability to create revenue for our organization if we align with how businesses are changing. And I think that's probably the why. You know, why do that? Because it creates more opportunities to work together with businesses, knowing that there's a shift in how strategy and agile workplaces and nimble experiences have become more prevalent. Right. Yeah, and you brought up about digital transformation. I think that's been prevalent for quite a while, and now you factor in the advent of the use of AI in that digital transformation too. So, is there in-house expertise in a lot of companies? No. So that's probably another gameplay for consultants to bring to the table in both the current and the future state of how can the advent of artificial intelligence and digital transformation make our journey, take us into the next wave of how businesses will change. Because remember, I talked about the microcosm that procurement is. of how business keeps changing is the next big change. And we're already seeing in procurement how we're using a lot more AI and chatbots to actually to run RFPs and to find and
Mhm.
discover suppliers. It's kind of exciting stuff. And so what can consultants bring to an organization in the future, the present and the future, to also help that transformation journey? So that's another why, to why things are changing too. So I think, the thing that I'd want to leave the audience with here today is that I mentioned procurement and how we've kind of, changed and transformed over the years, and consultants kind of have too, and I've alluded to some of the reasons why, and what the cause of that is. I think what I'll leave people with is that no matter what function you're in the business world, whether it's procurement, consulting, operations, finance, the thing that's really important is two critical skills. One is listening and one is aligning. So listen to what your business partners are saying. Listen to what your consultants are saying. Listen to what's happening in the world, in business and even outside of business. Absorb those things, and how can your takeaways from that align you for future success? And I think in any function in the business world, if you listen and align, I think you're better off.